Hey, how's it going today? So we are going to be doing our remote today and spending all of our time working on our IA. So I just want to go over some of the expectations for today and how you can make the most out of your time. So here's our lesson. We're going to be looking at personal engagement and communication aspects of our lab, and the whole class will be devoted to work time. And just remember that this IA is going to be due the Friday before break, and that's going to be what is that 3:26 at 2 p.m. So you want to have your full IA done by then. So here is the basic grading criteria for the IA. So notice I put it onto these sections here, and it shows you the total number of points being 24 and where you're going to get the points for each of the sections. Now we're going to focus on the two smaller sections today. One is called communication, one is called personal engagement. Now you're going to find all of the resources for IA in this link right here. So just open up the link for the Physics Vault. And you'll see in the Physics Vault, there's going to be a whole section just for IAs. And we've used these sections in the past. This is just a remembering what we've done. But in here, you've got everything from like the full overview of how to do an IA. You've got IB's whole entire IA packet. That's just like a long thing that explains all the details. You also have your past proposal form. Remember that one? You'd worked on that. You still have access to that. And you've got things like how to do uncertainty calculations. There's a bunch of examples of different IAs. These are all things that we looked at when we did our rough draft earlier. But the main things I want to focus with you guys today is on this detailed grading rubric. And so I noticed I've got a couple of different grading rubrics in here. I've got this one here that says just IA grading rubric, and then this is IA rubric ideas for success. And so both of those are good, but the one that's called IA rubric ideas for success, that's the one where you're going to find the majority of the information that you need. So taking a look at this one as it gets going. So what you want to do with this is really take advantage of the checklists. And I put this on our next couple slides too, but going to go through the checklist and ask yourself, do I have all these different things? So notice how it gives you like the general structure. And a lot of you still need to do this title page right here, which we'll go over that in a second, but just kind of following through that general structure. And then it shows you've got your points, you've got your grading rubric. So what's in the box here is actually just what's used by IB and myself to grade the paper. So we'd really just check off, we kind of like see, do you have the preponderance of these kind of things? If so, we give you like a 1. Do you have a preponderance of these? We give you a 2. So that's really what the scores are. There's no like half scores. You just get whatever grade boundary category that you get. So notice it gives you some guidance, and it gives you these checklist items, and it does the same thing for exploration. And that's what we're going to be using today to go over our information. So in the past classes, you had a chance to just look over your IA, look over the comments, and then connect the comments to the rubric. Okay, so today what we're going to do then is we're going to be really focusing on doing the corrections themselves. So going into communications, I just went ahead and put some main ideas up here. These are things that I noticed about communicating to for everybody in general. And so what I want to make sure is that everybody has a title page. Some people did, some people didn't. So make sure you have one. Your title page should have your candidate number, your date, your page numbers, and you should not have your name on there at any spots. And I went ahead and put those comments in the lab, and I also put your candidate number in the lab too. So you're going to see that as a comment in there, in that area. You'll find that when you're actually looking at the front page, all the information about that is there. Next page you want to have is a table of contents, and this is going to be a table that is linked to all the different pages in there. So you'll have like, introduction, this page, just a regular table of contents. You can actually find out detailed instructions on this in the IB instructions, okay, for the full catalog that they have. That's part of those links I showed you before. You also want to go ahead and include citations throughout the body of your paper. So really you should be aiming to have about at least 5 bibliography items. Okay, so going down into the bibliography at the end of the paper, you should have at least 5 things in there. Okay, some people had none. A lot of people had none. You definitely don't want to have none. You're going to get seriously marked down, or they will think that your paper is plagiarized if you do that. And so just don't do that. Make sure you've got everything with your bibliography section set up, and then have your in-text links to that bibliography. And you should use APA or MLA format. Once you choose one of those formats, stick to it. I tell most people use APA. Yeah. So clean up your headers and legends. Don't break headers across pages. Be real clean. Anytime you have a new section, okay, anytime you have like a graph or a table, have a logical name, title for that. Bold it out. Okay. And then don't just like throw a title, say graph number 4 on one page, and then the next page is where the graph appears, then just floating with a header there. You want to make sure that you've done the spacing to get your header right on top of your graphs, right on top of your tables. Everything's got a name. And that even goes for things like calculations. When you're doing calculations, have a header for your calculation. Explain what you're doing in this calculation, what formulas you use, show the process of solving it. Okay. So clean up your headers and legends, like I was saying. Next thing, clearly state your research question in your introduction, methodology, and evaluation. I think it's safe to just highlight research question and talk about it and just keep coming back to it. One of the things that people make a mistake of is they just vaguely refer to their research question in their introduction, and then they never refer to it again. Okay. And IA marks down big points for that. They want to see you talking about your research question. How did you come up with it? That's part of your explaining your thinking. What is it a quantitative prediction between an independent and dependent variable that goes into your hypothesis, but that originates with the question you get into your research question? And then when you get into your methodology, and you're kind of explaining what you did in this lab and how you made the decisions you made, you should be referencing your research question again there. And then in the final evaluation, you should go right into your research question right off the bat and just talk about it. This is what the research question was. This is what I found out. Here's my evidence to support these things. Okay, that's you want to really be focusing on that. Same thing goes with your hypothesis and your independent and your dependent variables. Make them obvious the whole time and keep referring back to them and keep supporting or refuting your assertions in your evaluation related to these things with evidence, with numerical values that you've got in your experiment. Okay, so those are some of the big deals to focus on for communication. Now, as you go through your paper, here's the rubric, making sure that you're meeting all these points. What would you circle if you were grading communication for your lab? Would you circle the 3 to 4 category, the 1 to 2 category? Would it be a 3? Would it be a 4? I don't know. You think about it yourself and make your best judgments to get to that 4 for the communications. All right. Now, once you've got that section, we're going to now focus on this idea of personal engagement. So when you were thinking of personal engagement, this is a lab that you generated because you were interested in the topic. Explain that to the reader. Okay. Why are you interested? What's your background knowledge? What are you excited about with this lab? Now, that doesn't just go into the introduction. A lot of people in the introduction will just be like, here's my personal engagement section. And they'll have it a title, say personal engagement, and then have like a little paragraph about why they're excited. But that's not what we want to see. We don't want to see any separated out personal engagement section. I would never even say the word personal engagement in the lab at all. But you want to show it in that introduction. You want to come into the methodology section and you want to show it in the methodology. Why did you make the decisions that you made? What influenced your decision-making process? How did you make the deciding factor to control this variable? You want to explain your thinking in those areas. And that's really what this personal engagement is. It's explaining your kind of processes and where you are going with this whole thing. So explain that there. And then when you come into your final evaluation, you really want to focus on that personal engagement aspect again. In your final evaluation, it should have just as much of your personal engagement showing as it was in your introduction. It should be very evident from the beginning. You should be talking about what you learned, talk about things that were surprising to you, talk about things that were disappointing to you, talk about like, why is this stuff important to you? Okay. What could you do with this next for you? Okay. So this is kind of where this personal engagement comes in. So some people struggle with that idea, but really think about this is your baby. You've made this whole thing from the very beginning. Show everybody why you're excited about that. Show people how you learned from that. So here's the checklist for personal engagement. Not quite as many points, but still it's a really good narrative, ties everything together. Then here's some basic guidance right here. Okay, so you can go through the guidance and just notice, did you do those things, right? And here's a checklist at the bottom right here. Again, did you do these things too? Okay, so that's going to be our focus today, just really focusing on those parts of the lab. Don't get overburdened with the whole thing, as we still are going to have another full day on next Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, and another full day, Tuesday, Wednesday. was that Wednesday, Thursday, and then we also have our Fridays to work on this. But this is going to be due at 2 p.m. on the second Friday, right before break. And I want it before break because I'm going to be spending break grading all these things again. It takes a long time. Okay, so that's it. I know it's a lot to say today, but this is something that if we were in class, I'd be doing this and taking questions and answers. So if you have questions for me, why don't you go ahead and just message me through Google Classroom. If it's during the week, like today would be during the week, I'm not going to be able to get back to you right away. So you just have to kind of wait. But on the Friday work time, you can message me during the Friday work time, and I'll be able to get back to you pretty quickly. Okay, so that's it. You guys have a great day. Enjoy yourselves.